All right. Good afternoon. Today we have Dr. James Caldwell with us from Salus University. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very excited to have you here and learn a little bit about you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Melissa.
So, Dr. Caldwell, can you please tell us, how long have you been with Salus University?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I have a long-standing history at the institution. I'm actually a graduate of the Pennsylvania College of Optometry in 1989, which is actually the founding college of Salus University. Salus became Salus in 2008
Okay.
out of the expansion of the College of Optometry. I've spent my entire professional career. I've been fortunate enough to be able to say that, with the exception of a small period of time, 15 months in the early 90s, when I found myself working at the institution, not necessarily expecting to have had that been an opportunity. I left, I went into practice at a multidisciplinary healthcare practice in Western Pennsylvania, near where I grew up. And after doing that for a period of time and keeping in contact with my friends at PCO, now Salus, the opportunity arose for me to come back, and I took that opportunity, and I've been back since 1994. So I don't know the quick math, but it's a little over 30 years, I think, at the institution. So
we can pretty much say forever. You've been
yeah,
there forever.
long time. Plus my years as a student, it's been a long time. So
so it's pretty much your second home, I would say.
yes, yes, and my family as well. My colleagues and students are my extended family for sure. So
well, that sounds like a great place to work then.
yes.
So I don't know too much about Salus. You kind of started telling me a little bit about it. Do they have specific areas of studies, degrees? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Salus is organized into 3 colleges, the Pennsylvania College of Optometry. So we offer a variety of programs around the optometry assessment of vision. We have our Doctor of Optometry program, a 4-year traditional program, a 3-year scholars program, and we have master's degrees for international students who want to study optometry in their home country, where it might not be practiced at the level of a doctoral program like it is in North America. We also have the Osborne College of Audiology. We have a 4-year Doctor of Audiology program. We also have a 3-year audiology program, and we have a master's program for international practitioners as well. Very parallel, the 2 colleges operate. The audiology program also offers some certificate programs in specific areas within the profession, tinnitus and hyperacusis and vestibular management and some other areas as well that are available on our website if anybody's interested in learning about those. And then we have the College of Health Sciences, Education and Rehabilitation. So it's the longest name and it has the most programs. So we have a longstanding program in programs in blindness and low vision studies, wow. Working with individuals that are visually impaired and helping them maximize their vision and navigate in the world around them. And we actually have an education program for teachers who wish to work with individuals that are visually and multiply impaired. We have an occupational therapy department program, both at the master's and doctoral level. We have a speech language pathology program. We have a research program in biomedicine at both the master's and PhD level. We have a post-baccalaureate program, and soon we hope to be adding an orthotics and prosthetics program. So as you can see, our programs are all built around helping individuals maximize their quality of life, living to their fullest potential. And that really goes with the name. I guess I should have started off by saying Salus is the Latin word for health and well-being. And so everything at our institution that we do is really centered around the health and well-being of the individuals that our programs ultimately then produce the professionals to go out and serve, the world, society at large. So
that is a fun fact. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Very cool. So now, what is your role there at the university? I'm sure you've had multiple since you've been there for so long.
Yeah, so currently I serve as the Dean of Student Affairs for the university overall. I will tell you that it's kind of an interesting journey how I ended up there. As an undergraduate, I was studying, pre-health to ultimately hopefully end up in an optometry program, and specifically PCO. I was able to meet that goal, but as a work study student in my undergraduate institution, I worked in the Office of Student Affairs. And I
Okay.
became very intrigued by the work that they did in the Office of Student Affairs. And to the point that I almost thought maybe this is what I want to do for a career.
Oh, wow.
And the Dean of Student Affairs at my undergraduate institution said, no, what you need to do is stay on your primary path and become a healthcare provider. And then if you still want to do student affairs, do it within your healthcare profession. So you'll have, you'll be a very focused student affairs individual. And so, I took that to heart and I went on to optometry school. And when I landed in Philadelphia, I got to be friends with our vice president and dean of student affairs at the institution at that time. And I became a work study student in his department. And one thing led to another. When I graduated, he offered me an opportunity to work in student affairs at the time at PCO. And so that's how I ended up getting linked to the institution, was largely through my clinical training. I also wanted to complete my residency program at the Eye Institute, which is affiliated with our institution. And so that was the early part of my career, was completing my residency program, working in student affairs. That really led to what I call the first part of my career, which was patient care, teaching, and student affairs, specifically in the area of admissions and helping students prepare successfully to enter our program, from transitioning from undergraduate to professional school. That led to the next phase of my career, where I maintained my admissions responsibilities, but I shifted into academic affairs, initially as the director of academic counseling, and then moving more toward administrative responsibilities that included program development. As PCO began to develop programs, I worked closely with our academic leaders at the institution to help make that possible. Student learning assessment, some strategic planning, and working on accreditation for the programs that we were developing at the institution. And it was during that phase in my career that I began my studies in higher education administration at Temple. In addition to Salus, I'm also a proud Temple graduate. So I have a master's and a doctoral degree from their College of Education in higher education administration. And then the third and current phase is, since 2012, I've been serving the institution as the Dean of Student Affairs. The position became available. The institution conducted a national search. I competed and threw my hat into the ring, and I was lucky enough to be selected to be the dean. And I've been in that role for just starting my 9th year now this summer. So,
Wow, congratulations. That's a big deal.
thank you. And the interesting part for me is that my mentor, how I ended up being at at PCO, Salus, was the Dean of Student Affairs. So I'm actually sitting in his role, 30 years later. So it's really a full circle
I
for
have to
me.
say, it's come full circle.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. I said you seemed like you were gravitating towards that from day one almost. So
Yeah, it's people that know me for many years have said you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So
you took it one way to get there, but that's okay. It was probably a long journey to get there, but you're there now. So
yeah,
that's,
and you can see I'm smiling about it. So it's a rewarding role
yeah.
to fill at the institution. So
Say you're smiling after 9 years and the first few weeks of a new school year. If you're still smiling
yes.
now, that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
So as the Dean of Student Affairs, what kind of roles and duties and responsibilities do you have?
Yes. So at Salus, Student Affairs really is, we serve as the point of contact for all matters that are non-academic in nature related to the student's experience at the institution. So there are a variety of departments that fall under the umbrella of student affairs. So admissions, the registrar, everything related to registration and retention of maintenance of academic records, career services. So helping students, they've already chosen their profession, but helping them land within their profession in the role that they desire, and then helping them find that opportunity and being placed into that opportunity. The Center for Personal and Professional Development, CPPD, essentially, I'll, in air quotes, call that our counseling center. That's what most folks would, know that to be. But we focus on not just counseling, but also on helping students really fulfill sort of the image that they have of themselves personally and professionally. So we like to think of it as more than a traditional counseling center, staffed by some amazing professionals. We have our Office for Academic Success. I coordinate that area. That's our Disability Services Office, probably a large reason of why we're talking today. We have our HAFTR Student Community Center, which is essentially our student union on campus. student engagement, which is all of the co-curricular, extracurricular activities at the institution, student council, clubs and organizations, leadership development opportunities, peer mentoring, SALIS ambassadors. So the places, or not places, but opportunities that students can really elect to be involved in, go the extra mile, and hopefully we help them stretch and grow again, and give them skills that they can use to be leaders in their respective professions once they graduate. And then again, a large part of what I do individually is I spend a lot of time, working with students individually, helping them understand university policy, taking in any concerns that they have, suggestions that they feel we should be implementing to make the university community even stronger. And then, of course, advocating for any new initiatives based on their interest. I am fortunate enough to be part of the President's Cabinet. We call it President's Council at SALIS. And so I have the opportunity to interact with other university leaders and the president on a regular basis and advocate for student interests and student needs. And then, of course, the fun activities of university life, commencement, which is
Okay.
the culmination of all the hard work that our students do. And then, of course, orientation and our white coat ceremony on the front end, whenever we welcome them to SALIS, are also part of the student affairs portfolio. And we have the opportunity in student affairs to plan and implement those for our student body and our university community.
I love that, you explained to us that SALIS is, educating individuals to go out into the world to make other people's life better. And now your role seems like you're trying to make the experience at SALIS better for those that are supposed to go out and help even other people. So it comes full circle in a way that you're helping, your students have a better life and experience at SALIS. So that sounds wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
So you brought up the disability services in that last statement, and we are here today because we're recognizing you as one of our what we call accessibility heroes. And we like that term because what we're saying is, you've gone above and beyond to try and, make accommodations and make sure your students have what they need to succeed at the university. So a lot of times you'll hear the phrase ADA compliant, and a lot of schools and universities and colleges and businesses, they hear that term. And we were just curious, what does that exactly mean to you?
Sure. So again, this is an area that I became responsible for and very much more familiar with as a student affairs leader at the institution. And I think, over the years of working in this area, what it means to me is that that the SALIS community, the experiences that we offer, educational and extracurricular, co-curricular, making sure that those activities are accessible and available to all students, that everybody should have the opportunity to fully engage and participate in any activity that is offered, at our university.
I really like the point you made there that it's not just about the academics. Those extracurriculars are so important for students as well. That's wonderful. What are some things that you do to make sure the university is accessible for those students, especially those that are deaf and hard of hearing?
Sure. So focusing on individuals that are deaf and hard of hearing, they would come in, and meet with me. The entree would be through the Office for Academic Success. And oftentimes they will describe to me either services that they've heard about or services that they've experienced at other institutions. Things that we do is we arrange for transcription services where there are activities and lectures and things that are happening in the classroom are turned into a written transcript for them to be able to refer back to. We've done closed captioning where we've had the box, the closed captioning box inserted in any type of recorded materials. CART services, they've been used by a few students at SALIS and with great success. We've had sign language interpreters come in. We've used assistive hearing devices, things like Roger pens, and we have T-coil loop systems, I believe they're called. We have those available in 12 of our classrooms at SALIS University, where the students, if they a lot of them come in and they explain to me that they have hearing aids that are able to amplify what's happening in the room. And so there's a device that they can place, I believe they wear it around their neck, and they connect that to their hearing aids, and then through the system in the room, it allows them to participate more fully in what's happening in the room around them.
So these services come about by having a conversation with the student. So it's an individual conversation with each student that you have.
Yes.
Great. So everything's kind of individualized for
Yes.
each student.
And for the T-coil loops and the assistive hearing devices, we have signage around the institution saying that even for our visitors, that these services are available. So if we are hosting an outside lecture and we have people from the community coming in, or if students want to bring a guest, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have an appointment with me to access some of the services. Some of it is it's available through information signage on campus, and then we have folks on campus that can assist them in accessing those services and devices.
So it's making not only the school accessible for the students, but also any visitors that come in. That's wonderful.
Yes. And I think I have to credit having our audiology department join us, 20 years ago. They've really raised our awareness about individuals that are, deaf and hearing impaired. So,
well, it takes a village. It's
yes,
a team approach for sure.
Absolutely.
Did you find that during, remote or distance learning that the need for these services changed, either got greater or less?
I didn't notice a big change of the types of requests that we received. I know we're talking about deaf and hearing impaired, but I will tell you the biggest challenge that I encountered during the pandemic was when we shifted from classroom-based testing to online testing, and we went to using testing programs that I believe they're called lockdown browsers. So it allows the student to test online, but it doesn't allow them to access other elements of the internet or other parts of their computer. And so the students that are using accommodations around like screen readers and assistive technology devices that they might open on their computer while they have their test open, they weren't able to do that because the lockdown browser didn't allow, at least the one that we had selected. And I've been having some conversations, but from what I understand is lockdown browsers can be good for test integrity, but they can be a little bit of a challenge for individuals that use accessibility devices. So our workaround for that is that we tried to mimic classroom testing online. We would pick an internet platform like Zoom or WebEx, and then we would have the student establish a testing area, and then with the camera on their computer, they would show us that their testing area was relatively sterile, so to speak, nothing that could be used to assist them during the actual test. And then we would proctor them. We would have our proctors sit in the, and watch them essentially take their exam. And by sharing their screen and those types of things, we could make sure that they weren't on the internet and, accessing information other than their test itself. So I felt like that was a pretty reasonable workaround. But I think coming out of the pandemic, having conversations with organizations and vendors that work in the disability services arena, I think that's something that needs to be discussed to make testing better as we go forward. I don't know that, I don't think it was intentional that they locked those devices out, but clearly there's a need for them to be able to be approved and open during a testing situation for some individuals. So.
Absolutely. That definitely sounds like a challenge. I'm glad you guys figured that out.
Yeah.
So I think there was a learning curve for almost everything during that pandemic.
Yes.
So it's nice to have people back on campus and have a little sense of normalcy.
Absolutely.
Do you find that the captioning service helps individuals besides those that are deaf and hard of hearing, either CART or captioning? So those that don't necessarily have a hearing loss?
Yes, I learned this by talking to students. So not only are our students at Salis to learn, but they're also in this area of disability services. They're amazing at teaching us about what they need and helping us expand our thinking in this area. And there were obviously students that are deaf or hard of hearing benefit from captioning services, but other students have told me that if they have like an attention deficit or they lose their focus, that having the words on the screen and moving help them stay focused. Not only are they hearing it in the classroom, but they're also seeing it. So it's like two different ways that the information is going in. Other individuals that have told me that they have like working memory challenges where they might have a deficit in that area. The captioning helps them to process and retain information. And sometimes even if like there's just a little bit, now in the classroom, this is not the case, but they've told me that out in public, that if there's background noise or if they're in a situation where it might not be easy to hear the speaker, that the captioning can allow them to stay focused and engaged in what's happening, in the activity that they're participating in. So, processing that information, all these different things that people have told me, it becomes pretty obvious that captioning can be beneficial for individuals other than those that are just hearing impaired or deaf. So
Absolutely. I could see it benefiting everyone for
yeah.
sure. So if you could give any advice to students, staff, universities in regards to like accessibility services, what would it be?
Yeah, I think that, I've only been at this since 2012, which I know in the world of some folks' careers, that could be just a very short period of time. But I think what's happened is that each year, students coming in are more, they're more advocating for themselves. So they're better advocates for their personal needs. And I really think that what they've explained to me is that they've had IEPs and they've had accommodations through grade school and high school and through college. And so I feel that conversations around accommodations and disability services are happening more comfortably today, but probably not still as comfortably as they need to ultimately happen. And so I think that my message would be is that the conversations around these services need to not just be happening between the students and the disability services coordinators, and maybe even the faculty that may be just teaching those individual students. That I think that the conversation needs to be expanded across the overall academic community. So it's really a topic that shouldn't be discussed just amongst a few individuals, but across as many individuals as possible. You really have to, it's about building a culture where it becomes a natural and comfortable topic to be discussed amongst students and faculty, administrators, really all members of the entire learning community. And by attending various disability service conferences, the experts, the teachers in this area, really, the point that they've driven home is that you have to raise the conversation, raise the topic, start the conversation, and welcome anybody who's interested in learning, listening, participating, at any different level. That's how you really build your culture. So, it's about, I think, raising the topic, welcoming everyone to the table who has an interest or is willing to learn, and then you build your group, and then they recruit people, and over time what you end up with then is a culture that really embraces the topic, understands the needs, and provides really then I think outstanding services that help everyone in the community reach their fullest potential. So
Well, thank you for that. That is great advice, and I think everyone needs to hear that. So I know that you have used Carish and Associates in the past for some of these accessibility services.
Yes.
Can you tell us what services you've used with Carish?
Yes, so they've helped us with CART services, with transcripts that follow immediately after the CART services are rendered. And then we've also used them for transcription of pre-recorded or lectures that are given live and recorded, and the students can go back and reference those. So CART services and transcription services.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with those services as well as with Carish as they provided them?
Yeah, so both of those services, I learned about both of those services by interacting with Carish. So I met Carish representatives in a resource room at a local disability services conference that I attended here in Philadelphia. I was just walking around, becoming familiar with, this area. and this area of expertise. And I met representatives from Carish, and they were wonderful. They told me who they were, what they provided. They walked me through all the different services that were available, and they said, just keep us in mind. You know, you may not have anybody right now, but they kind of told me politely, they said, you probably in the future will meet someone who will need and benefit from our services. And sure enough, within a few months, a student came in and requested CART services. And if I hadn't had that initial conversation with the representatives and they explained what CART was and how it worked, I would have been like probably completely in the dark with that conversation with my student. So again, just their ability, their willingness to be at a conference in a resource room, their ability to explain their services in a way that I was able to understand them and retain them so that I could use that in my work with my students, and then ultimately reach out to them. And they helped me set everything up. They helped me to secure the service provider. We put all the infrastructure in place. They provided a staff person to work directly with my student from a customer service standpoint, as far as getting the materials, the transcripts after the CART services were rendered. They worked with our tech services department to get everything in place. We've done both remote CART through the internet, and we've done on-campus live CART with the sonographer sitting right next to the student. So I've used both of those services. They've been outstanding. I can't speak highly enough about the experience that I've had in both of those scenarios. And the transcripts are being heavily used right now. We actually have 3 or 4 students at our institution that are using the transcript services. And again, I just make the request on behalf of the student. I have a liaison that I work with at Carish. There's a liaison that works directly with the student. And then our tech services folks are involved to make sure, that the information gets transferred from our campus to Carish and back. So again, I can't speak highly enough about the outstanding experience that I've had with Carish in delivering both of those services to our students as needed and as requested. So.
Wonderful. We're glad that you've enjoyed our services.
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell, I cannot thank you enough for meeting with me today and giving me all this information. And we appreciate everything that you are doing for the university, for your students. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for making this a very comfortable experience. And again, just thank you to Carish for just being an outstanding partner to help our students, again, reach their full academic potential and personal potential.
Wonderful.